Hello, we did some basics to drawing and just learned some things to remember when we're drawing, not to freak out, to relax, draw what we see, not what we know. And I'm going to show you how to do a grid drawing today. This is part one. So this is drawing made easy. So we're going to learn in part one how to take a smaller picture and enlarge it to a larger picture. So we're going to use a 4x6 photograph. It can be a photograph or like a piece of magazine, whatever, but it needs to be 4 inches by 6 inches. And you're going to enlarge it and draw it to scale on 12 inches by 18 inches. And got to make sure it has the correct proportions and everything. It takes a while to set up everything for a grid drawing, so that's why I broke it up into two different parts. So that this first part, we're going to focus on creating the grid. And then in part two, you will learn about how to read a grid, create a viewfinder, and understand value. So here's the materials that you'll need. You need to have paper, 12 inches by 18 inches, because we are going to triple the size of our photograph. So you need quite a large piece of paper. If you are just going to double it, so let's say you have a 4x6 and you just want to double that dimension, then you're going to have an 8x12 piece of paper. I think that's about the size of a copy sheet of paper. So if you don't want to go triple, you can go double. You need a ruler because you're going to be measuring and using it for the straight edge, a reference picture, which there is a video as well on my YouTube on how you can get a reference photo if you don't have one like actually print it out, that you can find it off the web and insert it in a document and share it with me, and I'll happily print it for you. You need a pencil and an eraser. You definitely don't want to use a mechanical pencil because the lead in a mechanical pencil is very harsh, and even if you erase the marking, it still leaves an indentation on your paper, and whenever you start to do value and shading, it really muddles your tones. And a viewfinder is something that you can create. It's optional. You don't have to use it, but I love to use one. It helps cancel out all the noise going on so you can focus on what you need to draw. Love this quote. Very important for this is that success is cinched by the inch, but hard by the yard. So if I told you just to go enlarge a 4x6 photograph into a 12x18 drawing, you would probably forget. I would freak out. But if you were able to piece it apart and put it together like a puzzle, it makes it a lot easier, and success is a lot easier to accomplish. So right here, with the paper, I am tripling the size. I'm going to use a ruler. I'm going to do light lines. I'm going to do my lines 3 inches apart, going horizontally and vertically. And whenever these lines are created and they cross each other, that's going to create a perfect 3-inch by 3-inch square. And I'm going to lightly label the grid. So here's a video showing how I did it. It's about 7 minutes long. So
give you a quick tutorial on how to grid your drawing paper. This is a 12-inch piece of drawing paper. 12-inch by, I believe, 18-inch, but I want to make sure that I tell you that correctly. Yes, 12 by 18-inch paper, and you are going to use a 4-inch by 6-inch photograph or piece of magazine to use as your reference, but we want to get our enlarged paper prepped and ready. So what we're going to do is that we got to graph it out. This is where I become into a lot of problems because y'all want to rush. You're used to having phones and technology and have instant gratification. The best things in art sometimes are worth working for and take a little bit of time. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your time to graph your large sheet of paper. In doing that, you're going to sit here and we're going to do it 3 inches by 3 inches. So I'm going to set my ruler. I like to start on the short edges first. So this is the 12-inch side, and I like to do this. This is a trick so you can get all of this nicely gridded out. So every 3 inches, so at 3, gotta do a little bit of math, a little bit of counting. every 3 inches, I did a notch. Do you see the little notches? Very lightly, because the secret to a good grid drawing is some erasing. So I like to scoop my ruler up just a little bit, and then I do it again. 3, 6, 9. Come right here. Make sure that I have it all even on there, and I do 3, 6, 9. And then I like to flip it over on this side. And this is something that I noticed with law students is if you look at my ruler right here, do you see the edge of the ruler is not actually the start of the measurement? Make sure you get to the little knot, the first notch, so you know you were doing you have an even, everything's lined up where it should be. So as you can see, I lined it up not with the edge, but where my first little notch starts on the ruler. And I'm going to do the 3 inches apart. And now that I have these little notches through here, what I like to do is take my ruler and line them up, because my ruler is just 12 inches long, it's not 18. So there's no way for my ruler to be able to go across, and the big problem is students just want to just do the line really fast, but you need to take your time and line it up, because it is super helpful when doing a grid drawing. I find the best grid drawings I have are the kids that are patient and they understand that it's a cinch by the inch, hard by the yard. So they live by that philosophy, and they understand that if you take your time, it's much easier and it's not as overwhelming. So I've about completed all of the lines going this way on the paper. Got them all lined up nicely, and as you can tell, very faintly, because art is an illusion. Not everybody needs to know your tricks. It's all about smoke and mirrors, baby. Now that I have this done, I'm going to go to the bottom. Again, start where the measurement starts, not where the actual ruler does. And I'm going to do the same thing every 3 inches. So at 3, 6, 9, 12. And as you can see, boom, there is still space. Then I'll take my ruler, line it back up. And then I do 3. And that's all I need is that one more to divide up these last 6 inches. I like to go to the middle line, line it up nicely, 3, 6, 9, 12, and then that's that part. Work the whole page, and I got 3, 6, 9, 12, 3. Now that I have done that, I can take my ruler, place it at the notch here, and instead of just having like a crooked line, as you can see, if I just start doing lines that are going to be crooked, I'm going to line it all up with the little marks I made. Go across, and all my marks will be hit, because I did it, I measured it right. Oh yeah. And this way you'll have your perfect little squares for your grid. Okay. This tutorial is going on 7 minutes, so it takes about 7 minutes at the most probably to get this all mapped out, but it pays off, let me tell you. If you have all this mapped out, and then you just go square by square, this will just fly by and it's a lot easier. It looks very intimidating at first, but it's not. So here we go. There is everything mapped out 3 inches by 3 inches.
Okay, so we have done a grid over the drawing paper, and now we're going to grid the reference picture. So, as I said, you need a 4 by 6 inch photograph or picture, whatever you have, a ruler. And for the lines on this, I'd encourage you to use maybe like an ink pen because it will help you get your help see it a little bit better on the photograph. And we are going to know about how to label it.
So as I told you, for our grid drawing, I want to keep it simple, and I want you to use a black and white picture, and it needs to be 4 inches by 6 inches. It doesn't matter if it's landscape, which is going side to side or up and down, like portrait. And actually, I think it'd be better if you don't have a picture of a person because that's like a whole different ball game. But if you go like in a Google Doc, you can set it in black and white. You can also do the dimensions that you need as well. But I'm just going to show you real quick what I was talking about, how we're going to take this 4 by 6 and how we're going to make it into this large 12 by 18. So if you're doing your math, 3 times 4 is 12, and 3 times 6 is 18. I hope I didn't mess that up. So we made this 3 inch by 3 inch squares. We're going to make this 1 inch by 1 inch square. I like to use an ink pen on the paper, and you want it thin because you don't want it to cover up too many details. But as I said, you're going to set your photograph down and start where the measurement starts. And every inch you want to make a little notch. Okay. Make sure this is not an original photograph that you are measuring or drawing on. Always make sure you have a copy because you don't want to mess up something that's really nice, okay? And then I have to explain to your parents. So I did that. Since I made my notch on both sides, I can line it up, go across. So right now, I have vertical lines going through. This is actually my daughter, Lucy. This is her 3-year-old photograph. So I got that. I now need to create my horizontal lines. And just like those, I want to make these 1 inch apart. And 1 inch apart. Going to measure across. I want to flip this around, make it easier. And ta-da! I have gridded the photograph and I have gridded Lucy's face. So 4 by 6, 4 inches by 6 inches, and you have to have it 1 inch by 1 inch to have 1 inch squares, okay? That's the goal.
Okay, so now you have your drawing paper gridded. You have done a grid on your drawing paper. You've done a grid over your reference photo. And what we're going to follow up with on part 2 is how to read a grid. So you can go ahead and label it, knowing that the very top that you're going to start with, I'll put my face there, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the reason that's in red is because that I wanted you to see that is columns. Columns hold up a structure, and you're going to label your rows A, B, C, D. And rows are like the rows of chairs or rows of seats at a movie theater. And once you have that all established on, you will notice you have the exact same number on your large grid as you would on your small photograph grid, okay? Because they're all going to correspond together. And then you're going to go square by square. So this first square would be A1. You draw what's in A1. And you can keep going over. You could jump around squares however you feel like doing it, but you draw what's in each square individually instead of looking at it as the whole picture. So tune back in for part 2. So we go over that more about value, how to use a viewfinder, and how you're going to execute this grid drawing.